My father is standing on a stage bathed in blue light, holding a glass of champagne that costs more than my monthly mortgage. He is smiling that fake, practice smile he uses for the cameras, his arm wrapped around my brother, Leo. They look like the perfect family. Behind them, a massive screen displays the logo for Neuralink Bio, the company I built from nothing in a damp garage while they were out at gala dinners and poker games. Then my father leans into the microphone. He tells the crowd of investors and journalists that Leo is the visionary, the sole genius who designed the core architecture of our new medical device. He calls Leo the future of medicine. Then he looks right at me, standing in the front row, and his eyes turn cold. He says that every great vision needs to trim the dead weight, and that today, he is officially letting me go. He fires me in front of 5,000 people. He calls me a mediocre assistant who outlived his usefulness. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just reach into my pocket, touch the cold metal of my phone, and smile back. They think they just sold my company for over $1 billion. They don't realize they just sold a hollow shell, and I'm about to pull the plug. I grew up in the shadow of giants who were actually dwarves standing on my shoulders. My father, Arthur, was a man who valued appearance over everything. To him, I was the quiet one, the one who was good at math but lacked the star power of his golden boy Leo. Leo is 3 years older than me and has spent his entire life failing upward. He dropped out of 3 different colleges because he couldn't stop gambling away his tuition money. Every time he crashed a car or got into debt with the wrong people, my father would bail him out and tell me to be more like him. Outgoing, charismatic, a leader. I was the scapegoat. I was the one who stayed home to study, the one who worked 3 jobs to fund my early prototypes, while Leo lived on a trust fund. When I finally cracked the code for a non-invasive neural interface that could treat chronic pain without drugs, my father saw dollar signs. He didn't see my genius. He saw a way to fix Leo's reputation. He forced me to bring the company under the family umbrella. He told me it was for legal protection. He made Leo the CEO and me the lead engineer, but in reality, I was the only person doing any engineering at all. For 3 years, I worked 18-hour days. I lived on coffee and protein bars. I wrote every line of code. I filed every patent. But because I was just family, my father handled the paperwork. Or so he thought. He treated me like a ghost in my own building. If a reporter came by, I was ushered into a back room so Leo could take the credit. Leo would stand there, wearing a suit I paid for, talking about his breakthrough, while I sat in a dark lab making sure the damn thing actually worked. I watched them funnel company money into Leo's private accounts to cover his gambling debts. I watched them lie to investors about our delivery dates. I was the engine keeping the ship afloat while they were busy drilling holes in the hull. The pressure started building 6 months ago when the buyout offers started coming in. A massive pharmaceutical conglomerate offered $1.2 billion for Neuralink. My father and Leo were ecstatic. They started spending money they didn't have yet. Leo bought a yacht. My father bought a vineyard in Italy. They didn't mention a word to me about my share. When I finally asked about my equity, my father laughed. He told me that since I was an employee, I didn't have equity. I had a salary. He said I should be grateful for the opportunity to work on such a prestigious project. That was the moment something inside me snapped. I didn't get angry. I got quiet. I realized that if they wanted to treat me like a stranger, I would start acting like one. I would become the ghost they thought I was. I spent the last 3 months preparing for today. I didn't fight them on the sale. I didn't argue when they took my name off the latest patent filings. I just worked. I worked on the one thing they never bothered to check: the compliance and licensing architecture. The crowd is applauding now as Leo takes the mic. He starts talking about how he spent sleepless nights in the lab. It's a lie. He hasn't been in the lab once. He doesn't even know the password to the main server. He's looking at the representatives from the buying company, smiling like he's already won. He looks at me and winks, a silent taunt. He thinks I'm defeated. He thinks I'm going to walk out of here with nothing but a severance check and a bruised ego. My father signals for the security guards. He actually wants me escorted out of my own launch party. 2 large men in black suits move toward me. I didn't wait for them to touch me. I turn around and walk toward the exit. I can hear my father's voice echoing through the speakers, telling the world how bright the future is. I step out into the cool night air of the city. I walk 2 blocks away to a small, quiet park bench where my laptop is waiting in a bag. I sit down, open the screen, and look at the clock. The sale goes through at midnight. The transfer of intellectual property is tied to the live demo happening right now on that stage. They need the system to be active for the final validation. I lean back and watch the live stream on my phone. Before we get to the part where the entire stage goes dark and the billion-dollar deal turns into a legal nightmare, tell me in the comments where you're watching this from. And here's something else. Have you ever watched someone else claim credit for work you actually did? Maybe in school, maybe at your job. What did you do about it? Drop your story below. I'm reading them all. Now, back to the night everything changed. I'm sitting on that park bench, watching the live stream of the event I was just kicked out of. Leo is on stage, preparing to demonstrate the neural interface on a volunteer. This is the golden moment. If this works, the wire transfer for $1.2 billion hits my father's account. If it fails, the contract has a good faith clause that voids the entire sale and triggers a massive fraud investigation. My father and Leo think the technology is theirs. They think because they own the building and the furniture, they own the mind behind it. They forgot one very important detail about how modern medical software works: licensing and federal compliance. You see, in the world of high-end medical tech, you don't just own software like a pair of shoes. It has to be constantly validated against federal health databases. I am the one who set up those protocols. I didn't steal anything. I didn't plant a virus. I simply didn't renew the biometric authorization keys under the company's name. I kept them under my personal LLC, a small entity I formed years ago called MTech Research. Every single line of code in that device requires a heartbeat sync from a verified developer to stay active. For the last 3 years, that developer has been me. My father was too cheap to hire a compliance lawyer to check my work. He just told me to make it work. So I did. I made it work so that it only functions if I am an active, authorized officer of the company. The moment they fired me on that stage, they triggered a termination of authorization sequence. They didn't just fire a son. They fired the only person the software recognizes as a legal operator. On the screen, I see Leo placing the headset on the volunteer. He's talking about how this will revolutionize pain management. He clicks the Initialize button on the tablet. I watch the loading bar. It gets to 49% and stops. A red box appears on the massive screen behind him. It says, "Authorization required. Biometric key not found." Leo laughs it off. He tells the crowd it's just a small glitch. He tries again. The same red box appears. I can see my father in the wings of the stage, his face turning a shade of purple I've never seen before. He's gesturing wildly to the tech team. But the tech team is just 2 junior devs I hired last month who don't even have access to the root directory. They are staring at their screens in a panic. The representatives from the pharmaceutical company are leaning forward now, their faces shifting from excitement to suspicion. They didn't get to where they are by being stupid. They know what a compliance lock looks like. I take a sip of water and look at the terminal on my laptop. I have a remote view of the server logs. I can see the system screaming for a signature. It's looking for me. It's looking for the person they just publicly humiliated and threw out like trash. My phone starts buzzing in my pocket. It's my father. I decline the call. It buzzes again. It's Leo. I decline that one too. They are starting to realize that the mediocre assistant was actually the only thing keeping their house of cards from falling over. On the live stream, the silence in the room is deafening. Leo is sweating through his $5,000 suit. He's hitting the retry button over and over again, as if clicking it harder will somehow bypass 256-bit encryption. The volunteer on stage looks uncomfortable and takes the headset off. The investors are standing up. One of them, a woman named Sarah who I actually liked, walks toward the stage and asks Leo why the system is reporting a licensing violation from an external LLC. Leo has no idea what she's talking about. He doesn't know what an LLC is, probably. He starts stammering, saying it's a server error. But Sarah is smart. She looks at the screen and sees the name MTech Research in the corner of the error log. She knows that name isn't on the merger documents. She turns to my father and asks him who owns MTech. My father is frozen. He knows I owned a small hobby company years ago, but he never thought I'd be smart enough to integrate it into the core architecture. He thinks he can just bully me into fixing it. He thinks this is just another time I'm acting out, and that a stern talk will bring me back to heel. He doesn't realize I'm not his son anymore. I'm a creditor, and I've come to collect. The live stream cuts out. The feed goes black. I can only imagine the chaos inside that hall. 5 minutes later, my phone rings again. This time, I answer. I don't say anything. I just listen. Mason, what the hell did you do? My father screams. His voice is cracking. I can hear Leo in the background shouting at someone to get the servers back up. I stay silent for a long beat, enjoying the sound of his panic. I didn't do anything, Dad. I say calmly. I was fired, remember? I'm just a mediocre assistant. I'm currently sitting in a park, enjoying the evening. You should be at your party. Why are you calling me? He lets out a growl of frustration. Fix the damn software, Mason. The buyers walks out. They're talking about a breach of contract. Whatever you did to the code, undo it now. This isn't a game. There is over $1 billion on the line. I lean back against the bench and look up at the stars. That's the thing, Dad. I didn't do anything to the code. The code is doing exactly what it was programmed to do. It's protecting the intellectual property of MTech research. Since I am no longer an employee of Neuralink, the licensing agreement between my personal LLC and your company has been voided. It's all in the fine print of the documents you signed 3 years ago without reading. There is a long silence on the other end. I can hear his heavy breathing. You think you're smart? He finally whispers, his voice dripping with venom. You think you can hold us hostage? I'll have you in jail for sabotage before the sun comes up. You're stealing from your own family. I almost laugh. Stealing? You just stood on a stage and told the world Leo invented my work. You just sold my life's work and told me I don't own a single share. You're the ones who stole. I'm just taking my toys and going home. And as for jail, I'd be careful with that word. You might want to check the company's tax filings before you call the cops. I hang up before he can respond. I know exactly what he's going to do next. He's a cornered animal. He won't admit he's wrong. He'll double down. He'll try to destroy me because that's the only way he knows how to win. Sure enough, 20 minutes later, I see blue and red lights flashing near the park entrance. 2 police cars pull up. My father must have called in a theft of corporate property or something similar. He probably told them I stole a laptop with trade secrets. I don't run. I don't hide. I stay exactly where I am, with my hands visible, my laptop closed. The officers approach me, looking confused. I don't look like a criminal. I look like a guy in a nice suit sitting in a park. Mason Vance, one of them asks. I nod. That's me. They tell me I'm being brought in for questioning regarding a complaint filed by Neuralink Bio. I tell them I'm happy to cooperate. I even offer them my laptop. I know they can't get into it, and I know that everything on it is legally mine. As they lead me to the car, I see a black SUV pull up. My father and Leo step out. Leo looks smug. He thinks he's won. He thinks that by getting me arrested, he can force me to hand over the keys. Enjoy your cell, you little rat, Leo hisses as I pass him. We'll have the lawyers strip everything you own by morning. I look him in the eye. He looks so small, even in his expensive suit. Leo, I say softly, have you checked the Bitcoin wallet address associated with the company's offshore research account lately? His face goes pale. He knows exactly what I'm talking about. He's been using that account to hide his gambling losses from our father. He thinks I didn't know. He thinks he was being clever. I just wink at him, the same way he winked at me on stage. The police officer pushes me into the back of the cruiser. As we drive away, I see my father screaming at Leo, and Leo looking like he's about to throw up. The trap is set. They think they're sending me to a cage, but they're actually walking into one themselves. At the station, they put me in an interview room. I ask for my lawyer, not a family lawyer, but a specialist I retained months ago. While I wait, I sit in the silence and feel a strange sense of peace. For years, I was the one who was afraid. I was afraid of disappointing my father. I was afraid of Leo's temper. I was afraid of being alone. But as I sit there, I realize I've never been less alone. I have the truth, and I have the data. My father thinks he can use the law as a weapon against me, but he doesn't realize the law is a double-edged sword. He spent years cutting corners, faking reports, and embezzling funds to keep the family image intact. He thinks his status makes him invincible. He's about to find out that the higher you are, the harder you hit the ground. By the time my lawyer, Marcus, arrives, the sun is starting to peek over the horizon. Marcus is a sharp, no-nonsense guy who specializes in intellectual property and white-collar crime. He walks in with a briefcase and a look of absolute confidence. He's already seen the evidence my father provided. It's a joke, Mason, Marcus says, sitting down. They're claiming you stole proprietary algorithms. But I've already submitted the filing for MTech's original patents, which predate Neuralink's incorporation by 18 months. Your father essentially tried to sell property he didn't own. In the legal world, we call that fraud. I nod. What about the arrest? Marcus smiles. The police are already realizing they were used for a personal vendetta. But here's the best part. While they were busy trying to lock you up, the pharmaceutical company pulled out of the deal. And they didn't just pull out. They filed a formal complaint with the SEC for misrepresented assets. This is the climax. The moment the world falls apart for them. I am released an hour later because there is zero evidence of a crime. In fact, the police are now more interested in the documents Marcus handed over, documents showing that Leo had been moving company money into illegal offshore betting sites. When I walk out of the station, the morning air is crisp. I see my father's car parked across the street. He's waiting for me. He looks like he's aged 10 years overnight. His hair is messy, and his tie is loose. He doesn't look like a titan of industry anymore. He looks like a tired old man who just lost everything. He walks up to me, but he doesn't yell this time. He looks desperate. Mason, he says, his voice shaking. We need to talk. The deal, it's falling apart. They're threatening to sue us for hundreds of millions. You have to fix the software. You have to tell them it was a mistake. I look at him, and for a second, I feel a flicker of pity. But then I remember him standing on that stage, smiling as he fired me in front of the world. I remember the years of being told I was nothing. I can't fix it, Dad, I say. The software isn't broken. It's just not yours. You sold something you didn't own. That's a very serious crime. And Leo? I think the FBI is going to want to talk to him about those wire transfers to the Caymans. My father's eyes go wide. How? How do you know about that? I shrug. I'm the lead engineer, remember? I see everything. I saw him stealing from you for years. I tried to tell you, but you told me to stop being jealous of his success. So I stopped trying to help. I just started documenting. He reaches out to grab my arm, but I step back. Don't touch me. I say, my voice like ice. You're not my father today. You're just a guy who tried to ruin me. He starts to plead. He tells me we can restart the company. He says he'll give me 50%. He says he'll fire Leo. It's too late. The vultures are already circling. The news is already breaking that Neuralink Bio was a scam. The stock price of the parent company is cratering. I tell him that if he wants the license to the software, it will cost him $1.2 billion, the exact price of the buyout. And the money won't go to him. It will go to the investors he cheated and the employees he's about to lay off. He stares at me, realizing for the first time that he has no leverage. He has nothing. I turn my back on him and walk away. I have a meeting with Sarah, the representative from the pharma company. She doesn't want Neuralink anymore, but she wants me. She wants to buy the technology directly from MTech. The fallout is spectacular. Within 48 hours, Leo is taken into custody at the airport trying to board a flight to Montenegro. He had a suitcase full of cash and a fake passport. My father is under house arrest while the SEC combs through 20 years of his creative accounting. The family mansion is seized. The yacht is gone. The vineyard is gone. They thought they could build a kingdom on a foundation of lies and my hard work. They forgot that if you build a house on someone else's land, they can eventually ask you to leave. I watch it all unfold on the news from my new office. It's a small space, but it's mine. I'm not a ghost here. My name is on the door. In the weeks that followed, the dust finally began to settle. Neuralink Bio went bankrupt, its assets liquidated to pay back the investors my father had deceived. I bought back my own equipment for pennies on the dollar at the bankruptcy auction. It felt poetic, sitting in my old lab, surrounded by the tools I'd used to build a billion-dollar dream, now officially owning every screw and wire. The pharmaceutical company signed a massive deal with MTech. They didn't want a visionary CEO or a charismatic frontman. They wanted the guy who actually knew how the code worked. I hired back the junior devs my father had fired. I gave them equity. I told them that in this company, we don't care about who gets the credit. We care about who does the work. I visited my father one last time before his trial began. He was staying in a small apartment, the only thing he had left that wasn't tied up in legal freezes. He looked small. The arrogance was gone, replaced by a bitter, hollow silence. He asked me why I did it. He asked how I could destroy my own family. I told him I didn't destroy it. I just stopped holding it up. A family built on exploitation isn't a family, it's a cult. I told him that I spent my whole life trying to earn his love through my work, and when I finally realized that his love was just a transaction, I decided to stop paying. He didn't have anything to say to that. He just looked at his hands. I left him there with his memories and his regrets. I haven't spoken to Leo since he was sentenced. I heard he's not doing well in prison. Apparently, you can't gamble with money you don't have when you're behind bars. People often ask me if I feel guilty. They ask if the revenge was worth the destruction of my family name. I tell them that my name isn't Vance anymore. I legally changed it to my mother's maiden name shortly after the trial. I'm starting fresh. And as for the guilt, I don't feel a drop of it. What I feel is lightness. For the first time in my life, I don't have to carry the weight of someone else's ego. I don't have to hide my light so someone else can shine. I realize now that sometimes the only way to save yourself is to let the corrupt system you're trapped in collapse. You have to let the fire burn away the rot so that something honest and strong can grow in its place. I'm building something real now. And this time, I'm the only one who holds the keys. Sometimes I think back to that night in the park, watching the blue lights of the police cars and the panic on my brother's face. I realized that the greatest revenge wasn't the money or the arrests. It was the moment I stopped caring what they thought of me. When you stop seeking the approval of people who don't deserve you, you become dangerous. You become free. My father and Leo wanted to sell a dream they didn't understand. They wanted the glory without the grit. They found out the hard way that you can't steal soul. You can't patent a person's spirit. And you definitely shouldn't fire the only person who knows how to keep the lights on. My life is quiet now, focused on the work and the people who actually matter. I've learned that power isn't about how many people know your name or how much money is in your bank account. It's about the peace you feel when you look in the mirror and know that everything you have, you earned. And that's something they can never take away from me again. If this story moved you, subscribe for more real stories about power, betrayal, and quiet victories.